My name is Rosey Velez. I'm retired from the New York Critical Response Medical Services. I retired as chief of the unit. On September 11th, I was a captain with the NYCRMS and responded to the trade centers when the mayor put the all call for everyone to come in. I've lost quite a few friends. I'm still losing friends. A lot of coworkers, a lot of family members, and right now I'm presently very ill from exposure to some of the things that we were exposed to down at the pile and at the Trade Center site, as well as in Staten Island. I moved to San Angelo in 2004 when I retired. Been in San Angelo since. Have two girls, two gorgeous girls, great women, strong women, and my wife of 30 plus years, Maria. Really am trying to pay back to this community the debt that I feel that I owe from the shoebox event that this community put together and sent to my guys back in 2001 and literally prevented some of the guys from committing suicide and self-terminating. I've always tried to do what I can, for the children of this city and for the city itself. My daughter donated a piece of the Trade Center steel that was given to her to replace the monument that was vandalized here in San Angelo. I'm presently so ill that I'm home for the last 14 months, and I'm not able to go out unless I go to the doctor's office. I can't ambulate. I'm in a wheelchair now, where I used to walk normally before, and I can't go anywhere unless it's Tuesday through Friday, and I'm delivered by Concho Valley Transportation. So I'm very limited. Have tons of people, lot of loving people who have come and visited me and spent time to talk with me. I'm literally just here with my photos, and a lot of people think that people got calls and went. That's not what happened. When the attack happened, there were a lot of people, a lot of individuals that I know, responders, that just went. There were some people like me, I worked night shifts, so I had just gotten off, I was home. People were driving right by me. Units were flying by me, and I'm like, what gives? And they're like, check your radio. So one thing that a lot of people don't know is I was in the middle of a divorce with my wife at the time. And I had my youngest daughter, Myra, and I was about to take her out to Burger King for her to eat her favorite breakfast, French toast sticks. And that's when I heard about what was going on. Went, got Maria, got Myra, put them together, left them at the house. Maria had asked me not to leave, but I left. I went to Battalion 49 and reported in right away. I first went to the 114th precinct. They had no units, no people, and they had tons of people showing up off duty. So I went down to 49. When I got to the 49, they literally only had two people in the station trying to man things. There was Lionel and the patrol lieutenant who was leaving to take extra equipment to another location. So there was just Lionel there, handling 3-4 lines and trying to handle the radio. So I told Lionel, hey, I'm here, put me to work, and he did. And from the 49, I wound up taking EMTs and paramedics downtown in my vehicle, because my vehicle was set up with lights and sirens. So took them downtown, and that was the beginning of my exposure to what happened on that day. The first problem was, and people don't understand, there was that thick black soot that was all over the place. It was, for lack of a better word, it was foggy. dark and dreary, but it wasn't water in the air, it wasn't fog, it was a dust all over the place. Kind of like the way I would describe it to somebody, if you put a shop vac in reverse, the way it would blow the dirt out and that dirt stays up in the air, or like when a dust storm comes by through here in West Texas, picture that, but just in one area. And you had to try to breathe and go through it. The streets were lined up with, like, it wasn't snow, but it was paper from offices, dust, and all types of stuff just on the ground. And you had to walk through it. You had to try to breathe through it, which was another issue. That's why everybody was wearing a mask, because the dust was getting into you and you'd seize up. So maneuvering was an issue. Then you had the issue of multiple commands. There was so many pop-up command posts because everybody was doing something, but communications was down for so long that you had to do something instead of doing nothing. Communication during the next day or so was streamlined and everything was mobilized into one command post. But there are a lot of little satellite spots. Like one of the spots that I wound up at on Vesey and Murray. We had a little command post there, treating guys after digging, washing their eyes out, letting them sit, eat, wash their face, wash their hands. Nobody really knew about this dust being toxic at the time because we were told we were okay. So you see a lot of films that we have where people are talking about digging lines and manpower, and they're going over grid maps, and then all of a sudden they put a cup of coffee down and you see the coffee with no lid, smoke comes up. And I zoomed in on a lot of the videos that I have where you see the cup goes down, and when the cup hits the car hood or whatever, all of a sudden you see a puff and a swirl of the dust goes up and it lands into the cup. None of us paid attention to that then. And we were actually drinking, ingesting the stuff that was in the air, that toxic dust. There was a pizza company that showed up with trucks delivering pizzas to us at about midnight. McDonald's showed up, with burgers, all types of places showed up with food to feed us, as we were digging. And people were just grabbing stuff, eating because they were starving, or drinking because they were thirsty, while that dust was in the air, not realizing that every time you opened up your mouth, you got a mouthful of that dust, and you wind up putting it into your system. We were looking for multiple individuals on that day that were not responding to their radios. We didn't know whether their radios went down, whether they were hurt and injured, or they were stuck. We just knew what their last location was, and we looked for them. One of those was my baby's godfather, Rob Cruz. It was his day off, and he was a union delegate, and he was helping the union, because it was election day that Tuesday. He was helping the union push, for their platform on the political person they wanted, reelected to office. We knew Bobby was right at the Trade Center site near Building 2, but nobody had seen him. Nobody knew where he was after the second plane hit. That's when everybody lost, sight or confirmation of him. So he was listed as missing in action, and we looked all night for him. Now later on, he laughs about it, we laugh about it, because he went right to work. As soon as the towers hit, he started grabbing bodies. He was working the triage, makeshift triage that they set up in Battery Park City. So he was on the opposite end of the Trade Center complex that I was on. So while we were both there, we never saw one another because we were dealing with two different sides of the tragedy. And when he was done at about 3:30 in the morning, he didn't think about checking in with anyone or saying he was okay. He knew the people he was around that knew him. He figured word would get back to his command. He went home. And it's a great story because my pager goes off, which was one of the weird things that the pagers were working, cell phones were not working. Because the few cell phone towers we had, a majority of them were at the Trade Center site. So I finally get to a landline, and most of the landline phones were busy. Finally get a dial tone, I call him, and I hear Bobby's voice. I'm like, hey, where the blankety blank are you? Everybody in there, and I'm saying blankety blank because I know you're doing this for TV, but I'm like, where are you? And he's like, I'm home. He's like, what are you doing home? He's like, I just got home and saw your messages, so I'd reach out. I'm tired. I've been there. He told me what he did, where he was at. He was tired and sleepy. I'm like, go to bed. Let me let everybody know you're okay. And I put the all call out, let everybody know. I found him, spoke with him. He's home. He was working at another triage site. And thank God we found Bobby. But Carlos was never found. Ricky was never found. Schwartz was never found. Quite a few were never found. Then you have David Lamage, who I worked with as a paramedic, but he was not just a paramedic, he was also a Port Authority police officer. David wasn't found, you know. And I could sit here for a while naming names of people that were not found. And to this day, it still hurts. It sucks. And I think for me, the part that hurts the most is like when you meet kids and widows, and if that widow knew that you knew their husband, and they ask you, tell me something that I don't already know, that kills me. That kills me. There's a person who I met who lost his wife in the attacks. And I met him at the worst moment ever, was at the memorial. And I could see his face that he was still in shock, but he was smiling and trying to be strong for his child. And you could see that a mile away. You could see how strong he was being for her. And then almost a decade later, I run into him and we sit down and talk at an event. And I'm looking at this guy. And I told him, I was like, I don't think you remember, but on this day, I walked up, shook your hand, and I moved to the side because I saw you had more important things to deal with. And I could see him smile, and then he started talking about his daughter. And I could see the same guy wanting to protect his child. And I could see when he looks at the pictures of his loved one, it's like I see that look in his eyes again. And the hurt that's there. And that's the one thing I don't think that I'll ever get used to, is seeing the hurt in people's faces. They do good hiding it. Lord knows, I do good by trying to avoid it. But there's those in my community, that 9/11 family, 18 years later, and you can still see the hurt. And it resonates. And there's not a damn thing I could do to take their pain away. And you know, it's with everything that's happened to me with my health the last few years, and you know, the hardest part is, and I hate saying the word, you know, but it's hard to put things in words at times. The part that kills me the most is that I'm still here. And no one understands how much that hurts. Because it's like a bad punchline to a really bad joke that I'm burying people on a weekly basis 18 years later. I'm going to say goodbye to people. Granted, that's life, but we were all exposed. We all did our jobs. And I just don't understand why I'm still here. And that's the part that really, really sucks. You know, and don't get me wrong. I love my wife, I love my kids. I never, ever, ever would want to see them suffer. That's why I never blew my brains out. That's why I haven't killed myself with all that's been going on, because I promised them that I would take care of them. And I promised them I would never, ever hurt them. So, but I know they'd understand that I'd rather not see one of my men gone and one of my close friends and colleagues gone. They know that I spent my career going places with these people, and at times, if they'd let me, I'd go in first. I'd literally try to fight with them. I'm going in first. If something happens, let it happen to me. And here I am, 18 years later, and I'm saying goodbye to them. And I'm still here. I just don't get it.